everybody else before Dave came in. Matt and George Prince are at another meeting, I'm not sure, obviously fishing related someplace, and they said they were gonna try to get here, but they're obviously gonna be late. So I'm gonna call this meeting to order. And as we typically have done before, I'd like everybody to go around and introduce themselves for the record. I'm gonna start with this young lady.
Amy Hybel.
Heather Allen.
Al LeGros.
Margaret McIntyre, the town planner.
Dave Brown.
Brian Hurst. Phil Taylor.
Bob Eaton.
Bob Eaton, and
Marianne Naif.
Marianne Nape, the executive director. Thank you. I just wanted to update everybody on kind of what's happening over the last several weeks, because as you know, in the early part of November, when this plan was voted on, it was voted on positively by a pretty wide margin. And that was great. At the same time, we had submitted this plan to the state a few weeks before the vote for them to review the plan. Unfortunately, we did not get anything from them until a few weeks after the vote. And so we're sort of dealing with how do we react to the state's comments after the town has already approved this particular plan. I met with Amy, with Matt Gilley, with Christie, with, there was one other person. Margaret, okay, Margaret, yeah. In early December, and we looked at the comments, and we basically said, you know, good review and stuff like that, but it's nothing that I don't think we can we cannot meet and satisfy the state if we kind of work in a coherent way over the next several weeks. I briefed the select board on the 18th of December and basically said the same thing. There were a lot of comments, but I didn't see anything that was really a showstopper. I wrote an article to the Anchor which essentially said the same thing. So those things were done over the last basically month or so, and that brings everybody up to date as to where we are right now. And so the point of this meeting is to kind of take a look at the state comments, and first of all, I want to get everybody's input. There are several things that I think we need to keep in mind. One is there were several areas that were pointed out in the letter that we got that said were missing in the plan, and so we need to focus on those at some point and say, how can we close the loop on those to make it complete? First thing is complete. The second thing is something that's compatible with all of the things that the state has issued in terms of guidance and so on. So completeness and coherency with the state are the things that we need to focus on. So with that, I'd like to hear what your thoughts are on the state's inputs before I say anything. Margaret, I don't know if you have anything to say, but I think one thing I would start by saying personally, I was disappointed in the fact that there didn't seem to be a lot of awareness for the exemption letter that we included with this plan, with all the people that reviewed the plan. And we were advised, both by our consultant and several people, that adding a letter explaining why we didn't want growth areas in the town and laying that out was the way to go. But it appears, when you look at what the state said, that their concern was that because that wasn't physically in the plan itself, their concern was that, well, maybe what the town voted on, they were not really aware of, even though we had taken pains to, I know I put it in several articles in the Anchor, and it was discussed in public hearing and so on, and I felt that people were certainly aware of that. But their concern was, well, it has to be physically in the plan.
Yeah.
And so, that's one thing that I picked up on, and I think it's probably pretty easy to put in there, add a couple of paragraphs or comments or something like that, and say that, it's ironic because when I looked at, on page 60 of the first part of the plan, it essentially has what we put in the letter under the land use section on page 1-60. But apparently,
But nowhere in the plan does it say we want an exemption
Yeah.
from the growth area, and
yeah.
that's the issue.
yeah,
It's in state law. Here's the comprehensive plan rule from the state
yeah.
that says what needs to be in the comprehensive plan, and that information wasn't in
Yeah.
there. And so,
So,
How
that-
we-
We can fix that.
we can fix
Yeah,
it by
but-
adding, I think, adding a couple of paragraphs, under the executive summary in the appropriate place in the plan, and kind of put that to bed.
Yep.
Yep.
The next thing that they said was missing was how can critical natural resources and important natural resources be effectively protected from future development impacts? Well, I thought we made a number of different recommendations in terms of policy, strategy, and so on, that came in pretty heavy, that we were going to protect natural resources. But that was highlighted as a missing element in the plan. And so I'm wondering if, Mary Ann, if you might take a look at that with the Conservation Commission group and try to come up with a recommendation as to what we might do to strengthen perhaps that and make sure that we're compliant.
Right. In fact, we met this afternoon and started to discuss the issue. We are going to give it more specifics and come back and meet next week. Well, in 2 weeks, we meet on the third week of the month.
Okay, that's great.
And we will come back, because as we talked about it, a lot of the things we just were not specific enough directly. For example, they brought something up about focus areas. We talk about focus areas. The state has their own focus areas. Harpswell has its own. It can be something as specific as to say Harpswell's focus areas. But we all thought that there were some interesting areas for us to concentrate on,
Yeah,
and I think we can come back at the next time we meet, long as it's after 2 weeks from now,
yeah,
with some thoughts that you can all look at and see what you think.
okay, great.
Al, one of the other things we could do is just go through the implementation plan and just pick out the things that focus on protecting resources and then put them somewhere.
Exactly, and
in-
be specific.
Yeah, just create 2 paragraphs that say,
Yeah.
this is how we will do this and such. One of the things that I think we didn't make as much opportunity as we could have was, remember when we did one of the first visioning things and we had people point out where important resources were for them? And maybe go back and look at that map and just point some of
Good point.
those things out too.
That's a good point, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, if you could get together with the, your committee and work on that and then come back. I'll talk about what I think the timeline, reasonable timeline for us is going to be in a few minutes, but it's going to be after your meeting, certainly.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. Okay, the next area that was marked as missing was that we didn't include a capital investment plan that anticipated municipal capital investments leading to support of proposed land uses.
Really fast, I was just looking for something. In the state law, I'm gonna really deep dive on this, guys. In state law, so on the page that we're looking at, it's under future land use plan, and it talks about critical natural resources and important natural resources. So in the state law, under future land use plan, critical natural resources, it says, typically, some of the information contained in a plan's natural resource section will be repeated or summarized in the future land use section. So I think we don't need to make up any more information that's in the plan. Most, other than this issue of the growth area and clarifying that, the rest of this is just checking a box, and it's tedious. And so all we have to do is check that box. We have to take that information and put it in a different section, and all that's gonna do is check the box. We know the information's already in there, we just haven't satisfied this state law. So
Okay.
I think that we can work with the Conservation Commission to make sure that that box is checked and they're happy with the information included in the plan, but I don't think we need to make up any.
Yeah, when I was thinking of capital investment, I was thinking about things like,
No, I was talking about
oh, okay,
I'm talking about the natural resource.
Okay,
one.
all right.
Yeah, but,
okay, that's great.
yeah.
Capital investment, I was, the thought that struck me was, okay, we're investing money in Mitchell Field. We're investing money in enhancing the waterfront to make it hardened and against climate change. We're investing money in our recreational trails and so on and so forth. Those are things that I think maybe we could highlight as capital investments to support land use and so on.
The
I'm
other
not
thing is the fire station. I mean, capital investments include things like infrastructure, fire station, police, public works.
Okay.
What you just said, Al.
Yep.
In terms of Mitchell Field.
Yep.
So and I just have a feeling that if we just address them with one or two sentences, then we send a cover letter to the state saying, here's where we addressed all the things that you said we needed to address. Done. Because they are not going to go through and nitpick. They're overworked and understaffed. They're going to have the cover letter. They're going to go, oh, good, they understood what we said, they did it, file it away. That's what they're going to do.
Okay. All right,
After stamping it, yes.
After stamping it, yes.
okay. The last thing that was marked as missing from the plan was providing the code enforcement officer with tools, training, support necessary to enforce land use regulations. I talked to Tim Clark. Is he effectively resigned, or is?
No, he's a code enforcement officer.
Okay, he's still
It's-
here.
It's ridiculous because they are certified by the state.
Yeah.
So this is just another spot where we're just trying to check the box.
You add a sentence or something like that saying,
We're gonna add it, my thought is to add it on page, let's see if this is the right spot. 1-41,
okay,
just to add a new strategy.
okay,
It's really that simple and it's really that ridiculous. It's that we're trying to check all these boxes for the
Right,
state, and we
right.
didn't check that box.
okay.
That's it. I mean,
Yeah.
So our response could say, here, see page 122
And-
for response to this.
Yeah, and then for me, it's adding maybe a new strategy that literally all we have to do is copy that, say that we're gonna provide those, we don't have to make it floofy or anything.
Okay, great.
Copy that, put it there, put it in the back of the implementation section. And I mean, it's kind
Great.
of that ridiculous.
Great, okay. Now, the other thing I wanted to focus on was this thing about growth areas. And maybe I need some education here, but I thought what we were trying to do was to say, I looked at the definition of a growth area in Maine law, and it basically said it's a designated area where you expect the majority of growth to occur in the next 10 or 15 years, or where you're projecting that growth to occur. In the previous comprehensive plan in 2005, the village areas were designated as growth areas. And it soon became apparent that that was kind of a non-starter. It was almost like putting gas on a fire, because they're already very compressed, very dense. And so how can you say we're gonna pile on more development and stuff like that in the village areas, when even now, they're having trouble with water, with saltwater intrusion and other things like that, specifically Cundy's Harbor, it comes to mind right away. And so that never really progressed, even though that was designated as a growth area, it never really progressed. What we've seen in Harpswell has been distributed growth. And that's kind of what I thought embraced, and saying basically, we don't feel like we can say we want to have all of the growth in the next 10 or 15 years on Orr's Island or Great Island or whatever. We want, if growth occurs, it's going to have to be distributed throughout the town because of, we don't have municipal water and sewer, we don't have, the soils are kind of challenging in terms of carrying water and accommodating construction, and so it made more sense to us to kind of say, okay, we want to distribute it. But I guess my question is, by doing that, we've essentially said that the interior, and we also wanted to do it more in the interior zone to kind of protect the shoreline and everything that's associated with that, fishing and all of that. So it appears to me as though we did not communicate that to the state effectively. Or what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, the guy at the state, I talked to him on the phone, and he said, that even though we all know that we want a growth area exemption, and he kind of got that, we also use language like infill development in our village district. And he's saying, well, if you want infill development, you're saying that's where you want more development to occur. And we're saying we want the interior to be rural, and so we want development to go away from there, and we want infill development in the village areas, and so what is it that we really want? And it just needs needs to be a little more.
If we took out infill development, I think when I went over this thing, what we were really talking about was the ability for people who live in villages, if they want to improve their house.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense to us,
Yeah.
because we've talked about it, and we understand what our villages are like, and
What's the purpose, what's the state interest in defining growth areas? Is it because sort of a sense of, we want you to define growth areas, so then we know the parts where, it's more of a definition of, if we know your growth areas, then we know your non-growth areas, and there's an environmental sort of rural character aspect to it. What's the point of having, so what are they getting at?
Well, my response, and I'll let Amy talk to this, my response is that they want to try to pin down communities to say, we're going to
Invest.
increase density in these areas so that we can address housing needs.
There are two things going on here. One is that in 1982, if you were here, you remember Doc McKernan traveled around the state of Maine because the people in the state were really worried that Maine was going to get sold out to corporate interests, both in their forestry, their agriculture, a whole bunch of other things.
Yeah.
And so the Growth Management Act was passed. It was passed based, and the growth versus rural language came out of really wonderful urban planning initiatives where traditional neighborhoods became a goal for people. And we looked at the automobile, we looked at really how to keep things rural and how to make walkable neighborhoods and keep things livable. And growth areas were considered at that time places where you might loosen restrictions, people could build and walk to the store, we could reduce automobile traffic and consumption, and the theory was Maine's going to get X% of growth. If we designate these growth areas, then the majority of that X% of growth will happen in the growth areas, and naturally the rural areas will stay rural. That is not exactly what happened, but it was a really good, it was a good
Instinct.
thing. So what's happening now is they've taken that language without really grokking exactly the history of what it was meant for. And LD 1829, now, if we had designated a growth area, we would really be paying for it because the state now through LD 1829 has really taken, and even without, they've taken land use planning out of local hands in many ways. And if you live in a growth area, you cannot have lots larger than, what is it, 5,000 square feet, or, no, that's not right. Is it 5,000 square feet?
5,000.
You cannot have lots any larger than that. So if we had growth areas in Harpswell, under state law, we would be required to have lots where people would be destined to have water issues.
But-
Just to clarify, because behind my question was, growth implicitly implies some sort of urbanization aspect. In other words, we could say that all of Great Island is a growth area for
Exactly.
carbon sequestration.
Yes, we could.
Growth for what?
Growth for
It's
what?
really, and our argument is, we're not set up to have municipal services. Anything we do is gonna be private wells, private sanitation, everything.
One size does not fit all.
Does not apply.
It
Is
doesn't
that about
fit.
right?
It doesn't fit, and at this point, you can develop a lot with 4 or 5 dwelling units on it and have no planning board review at all.
So but the question, okay, go ahead.
So I'm just thinking to supply what they're looking for. If we make the general case, our town topography is not set up for growth areas. We are on septic and water, well water. Because of this, we feel that growth will be dispersed throughout the town. Would that satisfy?
Okay, so
But
here's page 1-60. Let me just read this real quick, which I thought was interesting. The pattern of dispersed development is a reflection of the natural development potential of the land, the lack of municipal water supply and sewage disposal, and market forces that drive development toward the ocean. Dispersed development is likely to continue. Suitability of the soils, the septic system, groundwater availability, the lack of an existing town community center, desire to maintain the community's rural scenic character, and market forces make a village-rural pattern of future development unlikely and unsuitable for the community. So, I mean, we said all the things that I think were appropriate. It's just that we didn't
You didn't direct
maybe
it right.
package it or something
Exactly.
in a way that just hit them over the head with it.
we didn't say we wanted an exemption.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, what we did,
Wait.
I have the letter.
No.
You gotta put the exact, like.
It
wording.
has to be
In
in
the
the state
plan.
law.
Yeah, okay.
It has to be in the future land use plan that we are requesting an exemption. And we have all this fancy language and we're not
Yeah.
saying
Actually,
what
Well,
we want.
we were probably I would say, we were a little bit misled by
Yeah.
the guidance that we got, that
But we can
attaching a
change
letter would
that.
be sufficient.
We can change
We
it.
can change
It's
it.
easy.
We can
have
change
the
it.
language and it's already written out. It just is not in the plan.
Okay.
I think we should treat it as a presentation issue, not
Yeah.
a fundamental
Yeah.
change.
It's not a content. It's
Right,
not,
right.
yeah.
Done.
So I think in the letter that you send back to them, I think you should take all these concerns and say, we responded to that on page X.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And so nobody feels like they were ignored, but we don't spend hours redoing the
Yeah.
plan and
right,
going
no,
back
no,
through the
no.
whole
This plan is a solid effort. I think the other thing that, what I gathered when I looked at the housing area, there's a housing opportunity portal, I think it's called, HOP, Main State
Oh, Housing Opportunity Program.
Program or whatever. And there may be some data that we can pull out of that to kind of update a few of our graphics.
Well,
Because I think, I think what they're saying was, well, we use US Census data for a lot of the stuff that we put in our plan, but we didn't cite the housing opportunity plan or whatever, Main State Housing. And I think if we just somehow pull some data from that and reference that, they'll say, okay, yeah, we have the current data and we've satisfied their itch.
But to be clear, in terms of our consensus as a task force, is what you read as our of dispersed versus concentrated growth area is the will of this task
It is.
force. And it's a
It
question
is.
of presentation.
Yeah.
So we don't need to discuss the details, but you two can work your magic with
Yeah,
cut and
okay.
paste and somehow
Right.
get it in there
Yeah,
at the right place.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's clear. We don't, there's no way we can designate very specific growth areas in this town.
No.
For a lot of reasons, everybody
Right.
understands them. The best we can do is say, we have a certain amount of developable land, but whether somebody builds a house on Cundies or Orrs or Bailey or whatever, we want it dispersed. We don't want it concentrated because it can't be supported really well.
And to Margaret's point, you just have to get it in the language they're looking for,
Right.
In the place they're looking for.
in the place that they're looking for it.
Okay, could I just,
Yes,
because
sir.
you raised an issue, one of the recurring themes as you read this full report from the various agencies and bureaus,
Yeah,
talk about a bureaucracy.
yeah,
One of the questions they were all asked to answer, and they pretty much answered it in the affirmative, but some said not, yes, but, and that's the question of the data that we presented.
yeah.
And so that's a pretty straightforward, I say that because, Margaret, you're leaving what I'm about. Yeah, Margaret said, it's not straightforward, I quit. Margaret's got to just go through and update those tables, and that's an easy one. But we should just clear that off the deck because
Right.
it's a recurring theme in some of their things.
Just as an editorial comment, we've worked with 3 town planners during this effort. And the second town planner, Matthew James, I had a conversation with him about that very point, the data. I told him I was a little bit concerned about the time, I thought the data in some cases was a little bit too old. And he said, you're okay, don't worry about it. So, that's kind of the advice that we got midway through this process. And I think there are some things that we can do to sharpen up the data and make it more relevant, more current. But I want to make sure everybody understands, we don't have a whole hell of a lot of time
No.
to pull all this together.
No, but I think it's very clear. I didn't underline them. There are about 4 places, if memory serves me, maybe 6, maybe 3, where they specifically said the data needs updating, and we've provided it. And they actually, a couple of them actually gave us where we could find
Yeah.
it. So
Yeah.
I think it's a fairly
Yeah.
easy
Yeah,
fix.
it's very-
We
very
just
good.
have to do it.
And when you think about it, this was a 4-year process,
4?
I think it was 5.
or
like
5.
it's
but
getting close
a
to
lot
four.
of
Three to
that-
5.
A lot of that data was compiled at the beginning.
Yeah,
It was,
That's
and
right.
some of it was old then. because
And-
in
but
our
they didn't
first
have new data
visionings,
at that
people
time.
commented about how it
Exactly.
was old.
It's
So,
a
yeah.
process that robbed me of my youth, I tell you that.
You had black hair when you started, right?
So I talked to Max Johnstone from MCOG, Mid-Coast Council of Governments, because I had a question about the growth area versus a rural area versus there's a transitional zone that you can have also. And I said, you know, we are saying in our plan, we want everything to be rural. How can we say and the definition of rural says that we are sending growth away from rural areas. So how can we say we're sending growth away from everywhere? Like, does that even pass a straight face test? And he said, yes, what you're saying is that you want to maintain your rural character. You don't, you're talking about the scale and the development and how all that happens. And you can say you want the whole town to be rural. And so that made me feel a lot better because I went down this whole rabbit hole. Can we even say that? And during our conversation, I found out, I had known that he was working on comp plans with other towns. He just got done helping Bristol do their comp plan. It's submitted to the state. It hasn't gotten approval yet, but he worked really closely with Tom, who did our review. So presumably it will get approval. But they did, coincidentally, the same thing that we did. They have some village areas. They have some not village areas. They're doing all rural, no growth areas. And so he is really familiar with what we are trying to accomplish, and he understands how tedious it is to check every little box and say, like on every page, you know, no growth areas, rural only. Like, it can be that black and white, and all we're doing is trying to check the box. So if anybody wants to, you know, you can Google Comp Plan Maine, look up Bristol's, and you can kind of see it's very bare bones, but it gets the job done.
So let me ask a question here.
Yeah.
I mean, what we did in our plan was, we talked about rural areas, we talked about developed neighborhoods, we talked about working waterfront villages, we talked about islands, offshore islands. Are you saying that if we just say everything is rural, and we just wipe out all these
Distinctions?
changes, these distinctions and stuff like that, that's the best way to go? I'm looking at page,
So, like, one of the comments on here is update the FLUP map legend so rural and growth areas are clearly distinguishable. We want them to be all rural with no growth. So all we have to say is all rural, no
Yeah,
growth areas. I mean, that's what Max did in the Bristol plan, and it can be that simple for us.
so we overachieved, I think, a little bit, and by doing that, we,
Yeah.
And,
okay.
and we need to just, for clarity, I look at this as sort of like an audit report, and I've been a financial audit. And what the auditors do is they look at your books, they do everything, and they issue a letter. And the letter says, we have the following problems, and they enumerate them. And you're expected to respond, and you don't have to agree with them. And by and large, you can say, your concern here is irrelevant, we're not set up to do that in terms of our size, done, and so on. They can come back and fight you, they almost never do. They just want it noted and recorded, they raised the issue and you answered, asked and answered and done. So I think the letter that we write needs to be very clear. In some cases, we need to actually almost have a table. Here are issues where we frankly just disagree with you. And that's fine. And I don't think any of these overworked bureaucrats are gonna wanna take us to court on that one.
And I don't think we disagree. I think we just say we've addressed it, as David
Yeah,
said,
or we've
see
done it,
page
yeah.
X, see page X. I do have one question.
It seems more like a wording problem than anything.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Margaret, and I haven't looked at the Bristol plan, we say we want to maintain our rural community. But we don't really say how we're going to do that. And I'm not going to make an issue out of it at this meeting, or any meeting really, but I think just that's one thing I think we were remiss about. Because how are we going to maintain the rural character of this community when we really don't have any open space requirements for development? We don't have any cluster provisions that are really to speak of. We haven't designated any spaces that we think are really important to preserve. So,
But we have the open space plan, which I think addresses some of
We
that.
do, but I know we aren't specific as to where they are.
And it doesn't have any regulatory
And
implications.
it has no regulatory.
I mean,
but
over a 10-year period, how are we gonna keep, and this is why I really made such a pain in the butt of myself, and I recognize that when I wanted to ask us to define what rural means. Because how can we protect something that we don't have a definition for? And that's all I have to say. I won't say any more, but I think that we are, I think
Well,
that's something that we could could have done better at.
Okay.
There's a definition of rural area
Yeah,
Yeah.
at the state level, but
Right.
I understand what you're saying, which is, we didn't really figure out what that means.
Yeah.
And what our vision of a rural area is for Harpswell.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it's just something that we all go, oh, yeah, we know what that means.
Yeah.
But,
okay.
So I propose that I will have all the edits done by the end of next week, proposed edits that
Okay.
address these issues. There's other issues, the required ones. If anybody wants to address anything in the other letters, whatever, anybody can obviously propose edits. But I think that if we plan to meet in 2 weeks,
Yeah, I was gonna say, we have to meet,
Wanted to
we have to
have
meet
to-
in like 2 or 3 weeks,
Yep.
the next 2 or 3 weeks. And Mary Ann, you're saying you have a meeting in 2 weeks?
we have to hold a public hearing.
We have to hold a public hearing.
And then-
that has to be what? How far before the 14 March?
Well, we have a couple things we need to do. We need to get it approved by the state. So
Right.
the faster we get it finalized on our end, the faster we can get it reapproved by the state there. It's only supposed to take a week to, I think, 10 days.
Week to 10 days.
10 days.
Yeah, for the secondary review, and hopefully, we can have that done well in time for town meeting. So it's like, that's the state portion. Our portion, we have to vote on it as a committee. Then we have to hold a public hearing, and then we want to get it on the warrant for town meeting. And to get it on the warrant, needs to be done like the middle of February,
Okay, so
because it's got to go in the town.
Mary
report.
Ann's meeting is in 2 weeks.
Yeah, so,
If we met 3 weeks from tonight, that's the, what,
I
30th?
should meet 2 weeks from tonight.
You can make
Because
it the
If Margaret
same.
can get it done, we should meet 2 weeks.
2 weeks
you're
from
right.
tonight?
The 20th,
Yeah.
so that'd be that's a planning board night.
Well, we can meet earlier
Wednesday?
in the day.
No, wait a minute, this is Wednesday?
Today's Wednesday,
Yeah.
yeah,
The 21st is planning board.
yeah.
yeah.
So what if we met earlier in the day?
Or
I
a
mean,
different.
What if we met
Yeah.
at 4?
Okay.
Looking around the table.
Well,
all
I
of
got a
us are
meeting at
available.
4. of
So what if we
that,
met,
but Maybe we can,
the day
figure
after
something
the
different.
day after
but
the
I think we
planning
need
board,
to
is
meet
that
in 2 weeks,
That's a
to your point.
Thursday.
Thursday?
You guys used to meet on Tuesdays, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
Do you want to meet Tuesday the 20th? Do you want to plan? Oh, that's before conservation, though. Then you won't have time to propose anything.
no, what's 2 weeks from today?
The 21st.
21st, oh,
Which
yeah.
is conservation.
Yeah.
And you want to get together to propose some edits.
Well, maybe we just don't put them all in. Why don't I talk to you and see what we specifically have to put in? We did get caught up in seeing some of the value of things they were asking for, and we wanted to address them. But for now, so we can proceed, let me talk to Margaret and see what we specifically need, and I can either call another meeting or
Yeah.
figure something out.
Good.
We could do it the same day, but the problem is that's a planning board night. And if you do it earlier in the day, then I gotta figure out an earlier time to be before you, but we'll figure it out.
So we could meet Tuesday the 20th, or we could meet Tuesday the 27th, or Wednesday the 28th.
Tuesday, the 20th.
Tuesday, the 20th?
Because then we have to notice 7 days before the public hearing, so we're just like really, there's not a lot of time.
Do you
Yeah.
anticipate your edits you will send out before then to all? I'm just
Yeah.
asking because I can't be here the 20th, but I would.
Yeah,
like to.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, so let's, 14th of March is the town meeting.
Mm-hmm.
We have to meet 30 days prior to that. I mean, the public hearing has to be 30 days prior?
You have to make any changes.
Or
30 days
what,
prior.
since this is a modification to an existing plan, I thought we could,
It's not 30 days, it's 7 days. So we have to have the plan done and posted around town 7 days prior to the public hearing because it's an amendment
Right.
to an already public hearing noticed plan.
Okay, so, given that, that means we don't have to get anything out until early March to the public.
But we want to get on the warrant for town meeting.
Right.
We need to get in the town report,
Yeah.
which needs to be done the middle of February. We can get on the town report regardless, but I think if we could have our public hearing prior to the middle of February, that would be good.
When are you gonna
That's
get your
possible.
edits done?
Friday, the 16th. I'm gonna have a final conversation with Max Johnstone.
Then I think we should try and meet on Monday.
Monday, the 19th?
Yeah, if we can. We need to get this thing done. And once we get it cleared off our decks, then we can start the time down process for everything else.
Yeah.
But what's really resting on is our final approval.
Yep.
So let's get that done as quickly as we can.
Let's check the town calendar first.
All right,
What did you say, the 19th?
Monday, the 19th. yeah.
6 PM, if
That's
we
a
could do it.
holiday.
Oh, it's
holiday?
MLK Day.
Is that Martin Luther King or something?
Yep.
You mean Trump
Okay,
hasn't
so
canceled that
Tuesday.
yet?
We're back to Tuesday.
Trump,
It's in the
Trump
works.
holiday.
Or renamed it.
Donald
Tuesday,
J.
the
Trump.
20th?
Yeah, Tuesday, the 20th is good.
What time?
6.
Okay,
There's an ENT meeting at 6, but we'll meet somewhere else.
okay.
Tuesday, the
I'm sorry,
20th,
what day was that?
Tuesday, the 20th of January at 6
p.m.
PM.
At 6?
Yeah, 20th at 6 PM.
Okay.
Good.
I will not be here, but I will send any comments.
All right.
I have
Hopefully-
my daughter's senior night.
Yeah.
All right, so Margaret's gonna work on the changes. I'll help make some editorial changes to make sure that the growth area exemption is represented in the, in a coherent fashion.
Feel good language.
And,
Can I, what is the assumption what is gonna be presented to the town meeting in March? Will it, I mean, at some point, obviously, this thing, there'll be a new printed version of this thing.
yeah,
But it strikes me as asking the town has already approved this.
right.
Can we do a track change or somehow saying, look, here are the key things that have been done. Please focus on that. We are not going to discuss page 13. Nobody in the state had an issue about it. You've approved it. Move on.
Yeah, right, yeah.
What about just like, if you're doing a cover letter, like focusing on those key
Yeah.
Yeah,
points?
can't you
It'll
just
be-
consider it an update?
No one wants to make a big deal out of this.
No.
It passed by
Right.
70%. It's gonna-
Public hearing,
It's okay.
you know, I think the public hearing is to say, we've made some
Yeah.
changes based on the state input.
Yeah,
Here are the
That's
main
it.
changes.
Yeah.
Bada boom, bada bing,
yeah,
that's it.
exactly.
Okay, good.
And then,
Don't be looking for
And
no
then-
trouble.
No, I'm,
and then
That's the reason I raised it.
the March meeting is gonna be a hand vote, as normally occurs. It's not gonna be a secret
there'll
vote,
be a
private vote,
line.
whatever. Okay, we
Great.
clear?
Good job. Margaret, thank you so much.
It's a really hard to come in at the end of the process.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
You won't be doing this again.
yeah, if
None of us
history is
will.
any
Did
judge,
you say that?
it'll be 20 years before we ever
Yeah.
revise this damn thing.
Margaret's not very old,
I'm
I
not
don't
that
know.
close to retirement, my friend.
Well, if you lead the effort, we
Yeah.
will not be in this spot. We will have it done and it'll get done right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't, I'll look closer at Bristol's, but I don't see where it directly says it looks very, it doesn't look actually similar to ours at all, but I don't see any
No,
direct
Bristol's a
statements
to-
about.
Bristol's a totally different animal there.
Yeah, but there's no direct statement about non-growth
You know,
area that I can I mean, I've just been, since
Yeah.
you mentioned it, perusing
Yeah,
it.
but it's like so bare bones.
It is
and
very
really-
bare bones.
There's one picture in the whole
It's
comp
crazy.
plan.
Yeah.
Small town.
Max said when he started working with them, he took out like 150 pages. Because what they had is what we had, which is they had a consultant, they had a committee, it didn't get approved by the state, and then
This happens all the time.
yeah, and so then he went back to pick up the pieces and,
Could COG update our numbers for us? I
Yeah.
mean, we pay them. Why can't we get them to do some of this updating?
they're gonna help.
Okay, good,
They're, yeah,
good. I mean, that's
Yeah.
what they're there for, right?
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay,
Midcoast Council of Governments, MCOG.
we've had there have been 6 or 7 different entities that have reviewed this plan. And I found that very interesting. And that explains why some of the comments and inputs, but.
Yeah.
Everybody feel comfortable with where we are right now and
Yeah.
what the
Yeah.
plan is going ahead?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
One non-related, does anybody have a way to get in touch with Matt Gilly or George Prince?
I do.
Yeah.
We all.
Can you
we-
tell them that we're wrapping up the
Yeah.
meeting and they don't have to come?
Okay.
Okay. So,
The other thing I would just say, that this is more on my end, but our plan is done on InDesign, which is an Adobe product. That's the program that Viewshed used to edit it, but we have Amelia here, who's our communication specialist, and she works in assessing, and she is a whiz at InDesign. So now we can do all of our edits in-house,
great.
live. We don't have to send them to Vision, wait 2 weeks for Viewshed,
Viewshed.
wait 2 weeks for them to get it back, and then see an error and go back and forth. So this'll like eliminate so much time and expense for the town, and so that, I'm really excited about that part. This is gonna make it a lot easier for us, for
Okay,
me,
great.
yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah.
Well, I really appreciate everybody coming tonight, kind of lousy weather, and last words, drive carefully going home, and we'll get this done by hook or by crook. And,
This year,
yeah, I think,
Yeah.
yeah, just drive carefully going back, and appreciate everybody coming tonight. I think we're ready to adjourn.
Okay.
hooray. All right.